At 2:17 p.m., my world cracked open with 7 words. Position eliminated. No call, no warning, just an email, cold as the Seattle rain drumming the office window. I froze, staring at the screen. The cubicle I'd called home for 10 years, stacked, with post-it notes and half-dead succulents, felt like a museum of someone else's life. The air smelled of burnt Starbucks coffee, a sour reminder of the all-nighters I'd pulled for this company. 10 years. Gone in a single click. My phone buzzed on the desk, rattling against a chipped coffee mug. The family group chat. I swiped it open, expecting a check-in, maybe a, "You okay?" Instead, Lila's message hit like a slap. "Guess Elena's not so irreplaceable." A gif followed, a cartoon guy slipping on a banana peel, arms flailing. Laughing emojis flooded in from Mom, Dad, even Aunt Carol. No one asked how I was. No one typed, "I'm sorry." Just laughter, sharp and careless. "Lila, really?" I muttered, my voice swallowed by the hum of fluorescent lights. I set the phone face down, the screen's glow snuffed out. My hand hovered over the laptop, then snapped it shut. The click echoed, too loud in the empty office. Outside, the rain blurred the Space Needle's silhouette, washing away the city I thought I belonged to. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat there, the weight of it all pressing against my chest. Not anger, but a hollow ache, like the time I waited for Mom to pick me up after soccer practice, only to walk home alone in the dark. The clock ticked. My diet. Coke and sweated on the desk. Life moved on, indifferent. I grabbed my bag, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. As I stepped into the elevator, the doors closed like a curtain on a play I hadn't meant to star in. The rain waited outside, ready to soak me through, but I didn't care. Some betrayals don't shout. They just slip into your inbox, or your family chat, and rewrite your story before you've had a chance to fight. Weeks slipped by like fog. Over Puget Sound, quiet and relentless. No calls, no texts, not even a thinking of you from Mom. At first, I made excuses, busy lives, bad timing, but lies were thin, and the truth settled in. My family was erasing me. I spent days hunched over my laptop, scrolling through LinkedIn job postings that screamed exciting opportunities, but meant unpaid overtime. Evenings were worse, endless hours in my tiny apartment, the walls closing in, the silence louder than the rain ever was. I microwaved leftover takeout, the neon glow of a teriyaki joint flickering through my window. One night, out of habit, I opened Instagram, and there it was, Dad's birthday barbecue. The backyard I'd mowed every summer was strung with fairy lights I'd hung last year, teetering on a rusty ladder while Lila barked, "Hurry up, Elena!" A red-white checkered tablecloth held a cake I used to bake, now replaced by a glossy, overpriced tower from some artisanal bakery. My family grinned in the photos, clinking IPAs under a Seattle sunset. Everyone was there. Mom, Dad, Lila, even Cousin Jake in his mariner's cap. Everyone except me. No empty chair. No "wish you were here" caption. Just smiles, frozen in a frame that didn't need me. "Seriously?" I whispered, my thumb hovering over the like button, before I stopped myself. The old Elena would have texted, begged for an explanation, but that Elena was gone, left behind like a thrift store couch. I zoomed in, searching for a hint someone noticed I was missing. A glance at the camera, a gap in the lineup, nothing. Just Lila, radiant in a sundress, captioned, "Family forever. Blessed, blessed." The word stung worse than her group chat jab. I set the phone face down, its light snuffed out on the coffee table. The fridge hummed in the kitchen, oblivious. Outside, a car horn blared, then faded into the city's pulse. I leaned back on the couch, the springs creaking under me. Loneliness wasn't sharp anymore. It was heavy, like a backpack stuffed with bricks I'd carried too long. I thought of the time I waited for Lila to show up at my college graduation, only to see her empty seat in the bleachers. She'd been too busy. I should have known then. My laptop pinged, a job rejection email. Another one. I didn't flinch. Instead, I grabbed a pen and an old notebook, scribbling names of old colleagues. People who knew me as Elena Martin, not Lila's disposable sister. Some holes can't be filled, but they can be built around. And I was done waiting for an invitation to exist. The truth didn't crash in. It slipped through a text, quiet as a knife through silk. I was at Joe's Diner, the kind of place with checkered floors and bottomless coffee that tasted like regret. Charlotte slid into the booth across from me, her rain-soaked hoodie dripping onto the vinyl seat. We swapped small talk, her kids' soccer game, the new taco truck downtown, until her voice dropped, eyes darting like she was spilling state secrets. "You didn't hear about Lila?" she asked, leaning in. I shook my head, stirring my lukewarm coffee. The spoon clinked against the mug, too loud. Charlotte sighed, then spilled it. "She's marrying into the Whitmore family. Senator's son. Big deal. She told everyone to ice you out. Said you're bad for the image now. No job, no status. You know how she is. Bad for the image." The words didn't cut. They sank, heavy as the diner's overcooked meatloaf. I pictured Lila at her engagement party, all champagne and fake, laughs, curating her perfect life like an Instagram grid. An unemployed sister didn't fit the filter. "Wow," I said, my voice flat. "Guess I'm the family's expired yogurt." Charlotte winced, mumbling. "It's not personal, Elena." But it was. Erasure always is. She fumbled with her phone, then froze. "Oh crap, I sent you something by mistake." Her screen lit up with a screenshot from the family group chat. Lila's name glowed at the top. "Let's keep Elena out of stuff for a while. Bad vibes." Thumbs up emojis from Mom, Dad, even Jake. No one argued. No one cared. I stared at the screen, the diner's jukebox whining some old Springsteen tune. It wasn't rage that hit me. It was clarity, cold and sharp, like the time I found Lila's diary in high school, her words calling me the boring one. I'd cried then. "Not now." "Thanks, Charlotte," I said, sliding a crumpled 10 under my mug. I stood, my sneakers squeaking on the sticky floor. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving puddles that reflected the diner's neon sign like broken promises. I set my phone on the dashboard, screen up, watching its light fade. No more excuses. No more waiting for apologies that wouldn't come. They'd erased me, not with a fight, but with a few taps on a screen, as easy as unfollowing an old friend. The ache in my chest didn't vanish. It just shifted, settling into something quieter. Recognition. I wasn't their ghost anymore. I was done haunting a house that had locked me out. As I drove home, the Seattle skyline flickered in the distance. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel invisible. I felt awake. I didn't scream, didn't beg for a seat at a table that had already been cleared. I got to work. My old notebook became my lifeline, its pages scribbled with names of former colleagues, people who knew me as Elena Martin, the one who fixed messes, not the sister Lila airbrushed out. I started small, cold-calling contacts from a co-working space in Capitol Hill, the kind with overpriced kombucha and ping-pong tables. The first calls were awkward. "Elena? Been a while," they'd say, voices trailing off. I didn't explain the layoff, didn't mention the family. "Group chat, I pitched. Need help streamlining your operations?" I'd ask, forcing a smile through the phone. "I've got 10 years of experience and a knack for untangling chaos." The first gig came from a friend of a friend, a scrappy nonprofit drowning in bad bookkeeping. I spent nights at my kitchen table, laptop glowing, untangling their budget like a knotted necklace. When they mailed me a thank you note and a $500 check, it wasn't just money. It was a brick in the foundation of something new. Then came a Seattle startup, bleeding cash on a bloated marketing plan. "You're a lifesaver," their CEO said, after I slashed their ad spend and doubled their leads. She handed me a coffee mug with their logo and a contract for another project. I took both, grinning like I'd won the lottery. Each job stitched a little steel back into my spine. I wasn't the corporate drone who got canned, or the sister who didn't fit Lila's Instagram aesthetic. I was Elena, the one who showed up, did the work, and didn't need a gold star to keep going. Some days were brutal. A job rejection would hit, or I'd see Lila's engagement photos on my feed, her in a white dress, Whitmore Air on her arm, Tris power couple in the caption. The ache would creep back, heavy as a Seattle fog. I'd think of the time I helped Lila move into her first apartment, hauling boxes while she complained about the paint color. She never said thanks. I should have seen it coming. But most days, I found a rhythm. Wake at dawn, grind through emails, hit the co-working space, repeat. My apartment started feeling less like a cage, more like a launch pad. I even bought a new plant, a fern, not a sad succulent, to mark the change. When Lila's wedding invite arrived, fancy cardstock, gold letters, my name scrawled like an afterthought, I didn't open it. I slid it into a drawer, next to unpaid, bills and old dreams. Some doors don't deserve your knock. Standing at my window, the Seattle skyline blinking through the dusk, I realized I wasn't rebuilding to prove them wrong. I was rebuilding to prove myself right. Lila's wedding was a Seattle spectacle, the kind you'd see on a reality show with a budget bigger than most startups. The venue, a lakeside resort with manicured lawns, glowed under strings of Edison bulbs. A cover band belted out Journey. Hits and waiters in crisp white gloves weaved through the crowd, balancing trays of craft cocktails and artisanal sliders. I slipped in unnoticed, a ghost in a navy dress I'd picked for its invisibility. No sequins, no drama, just me, blending into the chatter of tech bros and political donors in tailored suits. I wasn't here to steal the spotlight. I was here to watch it flicker. Lila floated through the ballroom, a vision in satin and diamonds, her smile sharp enough to slice through the chandelier's glow. She worked the room like a pro, air-kissing guests laughing too loud at bad jokes. When a silver-haired aunt asked about the family, Lila's eyes flicked, just for a second, before she beamed. "Just me now," she said, voice sweet as the rosé in her glass. "The one who made it. No sister. No Elena. Just Lila, the star of her own curated fairy tale, tracked Whitmore wedding trending on Instagram by dessert." I sipped a ginger ale, the bubbles sharp against my tongue, and leaned against a pillar. The band switched to Sweet Caroline, and the crowd sang along, sloshing their drinks. Lila's performance was flawless, but I saw the cracks, her grip on David's arm a little too tight, her laugh a beat too forced. She wasn't celebrating. "A marriage, she was selling a brand. Some show, huh?" a waiter muttered, offering me a crab cake. I nodded, taking the plate. He didn't know I was the erased sister, the one Lila had airbrushed out like a bad filter. I thought of the time I'd driven Lila to her first job interview, coaching her through talking points while she fussed with her hair. "You owe me." "Elena," she'd said, half joking. I'd laughed. Now, watching her glide past without a glance, I didn't feel owed. I felt free. The ballroom's opulence, floral arches, a champagne tower, felt like a set, not a celebration. Lila had built this stage to erase anything that didn't shine, including me. But I wasn't the props she could rearrange. Not anymore. I set my glass down, the clink lost in the music. My presence was a quiet rebellion, a shadow she couldn't edit out. As I watched her twirl under the lights, I didn't need her to see me. I saw myself, steady, whole, and done with her script. Some performances are so perfect they forget the truth, waiting in the wings. The ballroom pulsed with champagne-fueled chatter, but when David stood, glass in hand, the crowd hushed like a curtain had dropped. Lila's new husband, tall, polished, a senator's son straight out of a campaign ad, cleared his throat. The band paused mid-chord, and even the clink of artisanal ice seemed to freeze. "I want to thank my wife," David began, his voice carrying over the sea of silk gowns and Seahawks cufflinks. "But also someone else, someone who doesn't chase the spotlight." I leaned against my pillar, ginger ale in hand, expecting another toast to Lila's perfection. Then his eyes found me, steady, deliberate, cutting through the glitter. "When my company was tanking last year," he said, It wasn't luck that pulled us through. It wasn't my charm or Dad's connections. It was Elena Martin. She saw a path when we were lost, rebuilt our strategy from the ground up. She saved the Whitmore name. The room gasped, a sharp collective inhale. Glasses hovered mid-air. Whispers sparked like static. Lila's smile froze, her diamonds glinting like a warning. I caught her glance, panic flickering beneath the Instagram filter of her composure. Elena? A guest murmured nearby, craning to spot me. Who's that? David raised his glass higher. To Elena Martin, the real MVP of this night. Across the room, David's father, the retired senator with a handshake like a vice, nodded at me, slow and certain, the kind of nod that shifts power. Lila's hand trembled on her flute, rosé sloshing just enough for the nearest tech bro to notice. David, what the hell? She hissed, low enough that only her table caught it. Her laugh tried to patch the crack, but it was too late. I didn't move, didn't wave or smile. I raised my glass, a small, steady motion, and held David's gaze. The truth wasn't mine to shout. He'd done it for me, and it landed like a Seattle rainstorm, quiet at first, then undeniable. The band lurched into a cover of Uptown Funk, too loud, too desperate to drown the shift. Guests whispered behind their napkins, recalibrating Lila's perfect narrative. She was still the bride, but the story wasn't hers anymore. I thought of the late nights I'd spent saving David's company, hunched over spreadsheets while Lila planned her engagement shoot. I'd never asked for credit, didn't need it. But truth has a way of slipping free, like a song you can't unhear. As Lila's smile cracked wider, I set my glass down. The ache in my chest was gone, replaced by something lighter, certainty. Some facts. I left before Lila's first dance, slipping out like a guest who'd never been invited. No goodbyes, no glances back at the ballroom, where laughter strained to patch the cracks David's toast had left. The night air hit me like a reset button, crisp and clean, sweeping away the cloying perfume of roses and ambition. Gravel crunched under my sneakers as I crossed the resort's lot, the Seattle skyline winking in the distance. In my rearview mirror, the venue glowed, a glass castle, teetering on borrowed time. From afar, it looked perfect again, like Lila's Instagram feed. But I knew better. Truth doesn't fade. It lingers, like the aftertaste of good coffee. I rolled down my window, letting the breeze tangle my hair. No radio, no notifications. Just the hum of tires on the I-5, carrying me back to a life I was building, piece by stubborn piece. My apartment, weighted, tiny, cluttered, with a fern that was somehow still alive. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I didn't feel like a hero, didn't need to. I felt free, not the loud, fist-pumping kind, but the quiet kind, like slipping off a pair of shoes that never fit. Lila's world would spin on galas, charity brunches, hashtags carefully curated to hide the stains. Let her have it. I was done chasing shadows. I thought of the time I'd stayed up all night helping Lila cram for her SATs, quizzing her while she whined about the font on my flashcards. You're such a nerd, Elena, she'd teased. I'd laughed, thinking it was love. Now I saw it for what it was, a one-way street I'd walked too long. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat, a LinkedIn message from a new client, a brewery needing a logistics overhaul. Heard you're the best, it read. I smirked. Maybe I was. Not the best sister or the best daughter, but the best at building something real, no filter needed. The skyline grew closer, its light steady against the dark. Seattle wasn't just a city anymore. It was a canvas, and I was done being someone else's sketch. I'd been erased, but I'd written myself back, line by line, with late nights, hard calls, and a stubborn refusal to quit. Lila's story might trend for a while, but mine was deeper, quieter, true, and it didn't need a hashtag to matter. As I pulled into my street, the neon sign of the teriyaki joint flickered, same as always. I parked, stepped out, and took a breath. The air tasted like rain and possibility. Wasn't just free, I was enough, And no one, not Lila, not a family chat, not a pink slip, could rewrite that.